Saturday View with Ronan Berry. With thanks to Lumcloon Energy, pioneering innovation, powering progress. LumcloonEnergy.com. Call 0818 300 103. Text or WhatsApp your Saturday View to 083 3010 103.
Hello and a very good morning to you. It's Ronan Berry here and it's time for Saturday View. Coming up this morning, are you curious how education can be made accessible to all? Well, we're going to explore that in a lot more detail across this morning, because this week sees the culmination of LOETB Inclusion Week for 2024, and we're going to speak about how education really empowers people who have inclusivity needs. And what really has jumped out at me in researching this is a lot of people maybe were not aware of just how broad a subject matter that is, and the role that education plays, and not just in helping people with needs, but also in informing the communities and, you know, the workplace too, and making it a better place for people to live, work and experience. We're going to hear things about adult literacy and about, you know, neurodiversity, and about how we include those and make education inclusive for all, because the benefits are there for all to see. I'm also going to explore social prescribing. And this has become a huge support mechanism for mental and physical well-being. And as I touched on with Aidan Barry there just before we came on, that often we see so much and we know of so many organisations and clubs and different things out there that are fundamental and crucial for everybody's just enjoying life and giving something back, and, you know, working on their mental health and sharing experiences and just meeting new friends. But actually the biggest problem can be making that leap, walking in that door, making connection with a new group in the first instance. So social prescribers are playing a large and very important role in that. We'll find out exactly what it is and how they do it a little bit later in the show. But before that, I'm going to go live to Croke Park, possibly to the roof of Croke Park, and if not yet, somebody is not too far off the roof, but Midlands 103, Sinead Hubble, is there, and not the first time, I suppose, a Meath person, well, she's not adopted Offaly person at this stage, has been in Croke Park. Good morning, Sinead.
Good morning, Ronan. It's been a long time since I've been here with Meath.
Okay, we won't touch on that one anyway. Come here, you are about to undertake a bit of a crazy challenge today. You're not alone in doing so. Remind people what you're doing.
I'm one of 100 people who are going to abseil from the roof of Croke Park today, all in aid of Doka's Cancer Support Centre in Tullamore. They had a target of around €30,000 to hit. They absolutely smashed that and went with over €100,000 raised from 100 people who are doing the abseil today. It's just incredible. And the buzz here at the moment, Ronan, is electric. The sun is shining here for us as well in Croke Park.
You've mentioned about you're going to abseil, so you haven't done it yet. Have you been given a time?
No, I'm still safely on the ground. I'm in group number 2, looking number 13, and we will be taking to the roof in the next couple of minutes.
Wow, and how high is it roughly?
It's 150 feet.
Nice.
You might hear some cheers in the background as some people are coming down at the moment.
Brilliant. And how long is it expected to take? A couple of seconds, or is it a
I think it takes maybe up to 2 to 3 minutes. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. And so that's it. So you're there. There's no backing out at this stage anyway. As it's for a fantastic cause as well. All the best to yourself and to the other 99 participants. There's been lots of texts in there from people. Joan Sweeney has texted in this morning to say lovely morning in Croke Park and sent us a fabulous picture. It does. The sun is splitting the rocks up there. And P. Kelly has sent his best wishes to all the abseilers and all the best today. Great cause in Dokas. And those messages are coming in from people. So Sinead, keep us updated and maybe send us a picture there when all is done, and looking forward to hearing more about it next week.
Will do. Thanks, Ronan.
Thanks, Sinead. So there you go, Sinead Hubble and 99 others abseiling off the roof of Croke Park for a great cause for Dokas. And as Sinead said, initial target of €30,000. It's already above €100,000. So that is a phenomenal achievement by all involved. So now time to get down to business here on Saturday View. I mentioned at the start of the show how inclusivity is, I guess it's a word we hear a lot of in this day and age too, but what is actually happening behind the scenes, and what are the particular needs, particular services that people need, and what role can education play in that? Well, Eileen Dunne is the FET Manager for Inclusion at the Laois Offaly Education and Training Board, and Eileen joins me now. Good morning, Eileen.
Good morning, Ronan.
Eileen, and you suppose you were one of the pioneers behind Inclusion Week. We'll come back to that now very shortly, but let's just take that term inclusion and what LOETB does. Can you give people a sense of what it is?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us on the show, first of all. My areas of responsibility include community education. So I suppose that's bringing education out into our communities, and our community education facilitator, Gillian Cunningham, provides all types of different courses, everything from craft to digital, to all types of different programmes out into our communities and community centres right across the 2 counties of Laois and Offaly. Then we have the adult literacy programmes and the English for speakers of other languages. So our adult literacy organiser is Anne Shields, and our English for speakers of other languages is Eileen Dunne. And again, we're providing programmes, as you can imagine. In more recent times, the number of, when we talk about English for speakers of other languages, we refer to it as ESOL. So we're providing ESOL classes, again, in community centres right across the 2 counties of Laois and Offaly, but likewise with adult literacy. And I'll talk a little bit more about adult literacy in a few minutes. The other areas that I'm responsible for then are community training. So within that, we have the Community Training Centre, and that is looking after, I suppose, young people, early school leavers, people who experience disadvantage. We have the 2 national learning networks, one in Portlaoise and one in Tullamore, who provide training for people with specific disabilities or additional support needs, and also local training initiatives. And we have 3 of those across the 2 counties. I'm also responsible for prison education and learner support. So again, we'll talk a little bit more about learner support in a while.
Prison education is one that jumps out too. And I think a lot of us, we don't realise that, that we have a substantial prison in Portlaoise too. And part of that whole rehabilitation, re-education programme just gives a sense of the scale of the role that the LOETB is playing in that.
So we actually have 2 prisons in Portlaoise. We have the maximum security prison in Portlaoise, and we have Midlands. Across the 2 prisons, we have in around 100 teachers. So they're substantial schools. They have every QQI levels from literally levels 1 right up to level 6. All types of, I suppose, soft skills, supportive programmes. They introduced in Portlaoise a fabulous peer-to-peer adult literacy literacy support programme to try and engage more people in the prison community in education. And that programme's been rolled out across all of the prisons almost at this stage. In addition, then there's a whole host and raft of different initiatives and programmes, things like Goshka, Red Cross, First Aid. There's just a multitude of different initiatives and programmes that they provide, as well as Open University for people who want to progress on to the higher levels.
And I assume there's probably some really wonderful case studies coming from that then, people who maybe had no access to education beforehand and come out with really credible, tangible qualifications.
100%. There's a raft of qualifications coming out of there every year, and a multitude of really positive stories. And I suppose, people moving on. And one such story, and I suppose one of our champions is Pat Sheehy, who released his book last year. So again, Pat had come through the prison education system, and again, like that, said that it really transformed his life and has gone on to greater things, and is a champion for prison education ever since.
Yeah, I didn't realise there was as many adult educators in there, 100 between the 2 is phenomenal. And again, we're going to get a sense of how this kind of touches all elements of the community. And said we're at almost the culmination of Inclusion Week. It's your 4th year to do so. I know you were very much behind it at the start. But even like during the week there in the Midland Skills Centre in Tullamore, he had a kind of a multicultural day as well, our intercultural awareness training event with Offaly Traveller Movement and the Laois Traveller Action Group and Ballycommon Technology and Training Centre. And that really was one of what looked to be hundreds of events.
Well, there was lots. I'm not going to say hundreds. There was lots and lots of events. I suppose I started in my role, and the inclusion team was first established in 2020 in the middle of COVID, so that wasn't straightforward. And we, as things grew and as we were establishing ourselves, when 2021 came around, I suggested to my director, Tony Dalton, we might do a little event. Maybe it might be a nice idea to shine a light on inclusion. And Tony said, a little event, why not a week? So it's grown and grown from there. We had around 33 events the first year in 2021. This year we had 67 events with well over 3,000 people involved in all of those events. And I suppose when it's first started out, it was just in further education and training. This year, or last year, it was also including all of the Laois and Offaly Education and Training Board administration staff, as well as a lot of the schools got involved as well, which is fantastic. So you had a host of events, including everything from interculturalism, diversity, people with disabilities, training programs and professional development for our own teams. I suppose, the whole area of how we can support our learners. And, in particular, I suppose, looking at the emerging themes, and one of the big areas that we're trying to focus on really, I suppose, too, was adult literacy, and bringing the learner voice and remembering how life-changing it can be for our learners who walk into our centres. So one of the days we had a staff day, and we actually invited one of our learner ambassadors who had completed learner ambassador training with AINTIS earlier in the year. And like that, she was the star of the show. She was the star of the whole week.
You're referring there to Cathy Clear, I'd
yes.
imagine. Yeah. And actually, we have a little snippet here of a video that LOETB have produced as well, just to kind of give an insight into the difference that adult literacy training can make for somebody, and it can be life-changing. We're going to hear now from Cathy just speaking about her experience, and we'll talk more about adult literacy then just after this.
I wasn't able to read or write. When you go into a shop with that, you want to read something and you get someone to read, say, I'm not coming up without my glasses. And I wouldn't have glasses at that time. But that was my excuse to find out what was on the list or whatever, and heard about the back to education. And I came to it. I'm here about 4 years, and it's brilliant. I felt ashamed I wasn't able to read and write. I felt ashamed up to, I think I was 68 when I went back to adult education. I'm not ashamed now. I'm able to come in and go to the library, go to the shops, go to different places and pick up a paper and read it. And I'm not ashamed. But there's people out there feels the very same as I felt. But don't feel like that. Go and get yourself sorted out. I have a whole lot of little stories wrote. In time to come, I'm going to put them into a little book or that, and let people see that you go from A to B. You don't have to go around being head in the sand the whole time. So it's that doing a mighty thing for me. And people shouldn't be ashamed to go back to education. It's brilliant.
You've been listening there to Cathy Clear. She's an adult literacy learner at LOETB and an ambassador too for the programme. And Eileen, we begin to get a snippet there just listening to Cathy about the difference it can make, particularly, at an advanced age, coming in to take up a programme like that and now looking at maybe writing a book based on all the stories she's writing. But if we look at adult literacy, how big of a challenge and an issue is it at present? It
actually is, and I suppose it's a huge area of our remit. But the then Minister for the Department of Further and Higher Education, Innovation and Science, Simon Harris, in 2021 launched the Adult Literacy for Life strategy. And I suppose as part of the strategy, there was a number of items involved in that, and one was the appointment of a regional literacy coordinator, and ours is Tamara Latham, in each of the ETBs, and a number of different action points across the plan. And another thing was to develop a regional literacy coalition, and we have our regional literacy coalition since November 2023 with a multitude of agencies across Laois and Offaly involved in the coalition. And what we do with the coalition is we've come up with we have developed an action plan for 2024, and we will develop another plan for 2025. And there's, I suppose, the actions included in that plan, would involve delivering plain English training, literacy awareness training. We are currently delivering literacy champion training across all of those agencies. So I suppose it's really bringing the conversation around to literacy, because when you think about it, almost 1 in 6 people in Ireland have a literacy difficulties. 1 in 4 have a numeracy difficulty, and 1 in 2 have digital literacy difficulties. So it's really, really important, I suppose, for all of us to be conscious of people. And I suppose I'm going to give a little plug here now, but it is important to take for people who are listening today I hope that Kathy's voice resonates with them. And if they wanted to contact us, it isn't easy to take that first step, but you will have a one-to-one appointment and we'll take it very slowly and we will look after you. If you want to call our phone number, it's 05793 49444 on the Offaly side, or 05786 61338 on the Laois side. And we will provide a raft of supports to help you.
And I suppose is probably an area and an issue that most people maybe assume isn't as prevalent as it is. But is it being exacerbated in the modern world? You mentioned about digital literacy skills too, that in the past, and Cathy kind of hinted at it there, that you could get away with saying, I haven't got my glasses or this type of thing. Is it becoming more difficult for people now to navigate because so much stuff is becoming digital? Like the latest thing we're hearing of is parking machines, download the app and pay for them. And it's all, it's very convenient for the 99% of people who are very digitally literate, but for other people, is it actually increasing the challenge?
It is. It's very difficult because it's not just a literacy difficulty. As I mentioned, there's 1 and 2 that's experienced digital literacy difficulties. And I know myself, even going to a match now, Kilcormac are playing tomorrow. So I'll have to buy my dad the ticket because he just can't navigate the system on the phone. So we do provide staying connected programmes in conjunction with the libraries across Laois and Offaly. And there's a whole raft of programmes. We link in with partnership companies and other agencies to try to reach as many people as possible to provide those types of basic digital literacy programmes.
And of course, a key thing for any education provider then is how you design your training courses, even how you market and promote those training courses to make sure that people with, who know that these courses are inclusive. It's a huge part of that. So after the break, you're going to hear from Therese Glennon, the Access Officer at the LOETB, on exactly how they're doing that, impact and benefits that brings.
Saturday View, with thanks to Lumcloon Energy, pioneering innovation, powering progress. LumcloonEnergy.com.
I'm joined in studio today by Eileen Dunne, the FET Manager for Inclusion at the LOETB, and also by Therese Glennon, the Access Officer at the LOETB. And before the break, Eileen was giving us a comprehensive overview about kind of what inclusion means, and it touches on pretty much every section and all the fabrics of our society and our communities. And we spoke a lot about adult literacy and about how even at any stage of your life, getting in touch with an organisation like the LOETB can be life-changing. And we heard from Cathy Clear, somebody who's been through that programme and continues her adult education, having had quite bad literacy issues over the years. We touch on how digital literacy is becoming a big challenge for people now too. And that's only one part of it. We mentioned about kind of multicultural events, the whole area around neurodiversity, about how you make programmes and education inclusive for everybody, those members of the LGBTQ plus community, people with disabilities, and the list is vast and broad, but yet we all know people with those various needs. So, Eileen, is supposed to begin when it's great delivering all these programmes, having them there, but designing them to suit the learner must be a huge part of it.
Absolutely, I suppose, and that's what we are really cognizant of, is to ensure that our programmes are accessible to all. Like, there's all types of disadvantage: educational, economical, social, geographical, and we try to reach all of those different areas. But the whole area of learner support is huge for us, and it's so, I suppose, important to LOETB that we appointed our Further Education and Training Access Officer, Therese, only last year, and she has already achieved so much in such a short time.
And Therese joins me now again. Good morning, Therese. Take us through your role as an Access Officer. What is it?
My role is to support staff across all the centres and services to ensure that we have a consistent learner support process and service to those students who require those supports and who have needs and who need to be supported to access their course, to succeed in the learning and to achieve the goals that they want from it. And I suppose in general terms, it's meeting the needs of students through providing an opportunity for them to gain skills, to assist with their learning, navigating assignments or academic writing, providing equipment, devices, technology, maybe an academic assistant or reasonable accommodation for assessment, such as maybe a reader scribe service. Extra time, things that the learner can feel comfortable with to ensure that they can access education and training. And that support is so important, especially for those who can often be furthest away from education. inclusion means supporting all learners who have barriers to accessing education and training. And, maybe that's not just for those who have a disability. Learners have so many diverse needs now, and in often cases more than one diagnosis.
And things like neurodiversity comes very much into play there too. How, for example, are courses designed then to make sure that people that are neurodivergent have access to those courses and indeed can participate?
Well, I suppose the idea of making our courses as inclusive as we can, and, not having that feeling that our course provides something for an other or something quite specific or targeted. The more inclusive our classrooms are, the more inclusive our assessments are, the less that student feels like the other within the classroom. And I suppose how we do that is to embrace the whole universal design concept. So many of our teachers have completed the universal design badge for learning, and there's also a universal design badge for beyond the classroom. So both of those come in line with a newly developed Universal Design Altitude Charter. And that looks at not only the learning, but 4 areas. So learning, social and support services within education, the environment, and the digital resources. So I suppose if we look at even learning, how can assessments be more engaging for all of our learners and representative of the range of learners that we have. And we do that by not offering just one type of assessment. Imagine if you could do a project instead of an assignment, or make a video or do a podcast. The environment. So if we have access to a building that has a ramp, then that's not just for a wheelchair user. That's for somebody who has mobility issues or is visually impaired, or somebody with a buggy, all those areas are support services then. So having quiet spaces or sensory rooms, and again, that's not just for our ASD learners, that's for somebody who's quite anxious over something, somebody who hasn't slept well, so they have space and time to process or to relax or to manage the sensory reaction. So digital resources and information, by providing I suppose even a video, and a student can put subtitles to that, translate them into their own language of origin. It's visual, it helps with sensory, it helps students to repeat something that maybe have working memory difficulties. So the more inclusive we are, the less somebody feels targeted in terms of supports.
In order to roll that out, do you pick a select number of courses, or is it something that is actually on pretty much every course that's out there at present?
It's something that we are trying to get consistent across all our centres and services. So there's learner support staff in each of our centre and services. So they sit down with a learner who is the expert in their disability, who's the expert in how they experience that in terms of learning and education, and work with that learner to see what support plan we can put in place. So that's for their classroom, for their assessment, for helping them manage the environment of the education. And I suppose then it's working with the students. Sometimes we have students who come back that haven't been in education for a long time, or maybe have a diagnosis since they were in education. So sometimes we have to work with them and see how it pans out, see what comes up, see what the challenges are, and help manage that along the way.
Eileen, I'm sure in your role then, you're saying Therese is in place about a year, you must be seeing the benefit now. Like, is there more engagement from people looking at educational options now that maybe wouldn't have been there in the past?
Absolutely, and that is something that we're observing right across the entire scheme. The increase in needs, the increase in a range of needs. But I suppose I'm learning as well from Therese, and I think that's really important piece of the whole jigsaw, that it's building capacity in our learners so that the learner isn't just being prescribed a scribe, but they're being prescribed a support, a piece of technology, whatever it may be, that they will take with them for the rest of their lives, and it will support them always. But it's also building capacity in ourselves, building capacity within our own staff. And Therese, like that, has rolled out training across all of the centres. Our learner support workers in our centres have, attended numerous different types of training, and Therese has developed a whole process for them to introduce, I suppose, that consistent approach to providing universal design in all of our centres and in our courses.
Do you have any particular, and again, without naming people, kind of, case studies, examples come to mind that maybe you've seen somebody come through the system that, let's say, previously probably would never have considered it?
I bet you Therese has loads of examples there.
I suppose we have smaller examples in terms of putting a small piece of support or a suggestion in place for somebody that's been just so empowering. If you put, say, reasonable accommodation in place for an assessment, that's, kind of creates a dependency for that intervention. But if we can hand the tools over to a learner so that they're empowered to take that with them and they can be independent. So if we've a learner who's visually impaired, and they use a software like NVDA, which will, navigate the computer for them. But if we teach them keyboard skills, that they're able to use that as an input or keyboard shortcuts, and give them a headset that they can sit in the class and allow the laptop to navigate for them, and they can still fully participate in the classroom. And then that sort of removes all the barriers. They can take that skill and that knowledge beyond the classroom into work, into life in general. Because
in a situation like that, they can participate in group projects, as you say, as a regular pupil, not as somebody with the additional need as well. Exactly. So that's a huge change, because I know myself, even in conventional education with groups, often the personalities come to the fore, and it's often an absolute mess sometimes. So, but making that and normalising that is a huge achievement for people as well. Inclusion Week has been a huge success for you again this year. Undoubtedly, it's going to be back again next year.
I would imagine it probably will. It was a huge success, and I suppose again I have to acknowledge the incredible participation of all of our team, the further education team across Laois and Offaly Education Training Board. Everybody embraces it every year. All of the centres have organised several different events, many of them. And it's not easy to do that in the middle of a busy schedule, especially at this time of the year. People are working on assessments and all different types of things. So I'm so thankful to everybody who has embraced it. But it's so important to shine that light on inclusion, to bring in the professional development piece, to remind us all of the difference we make to people's lives. It has been very successful. But again, it's thanks to the greater team, the FET team.
And this touches such a wide cross section of the community as well. Do you want to give us a quick reminder of the type of person or groups that, if they're listening, could consider getting in touch with you?
What I would say to you on that, Ronan, is further education and training is for everybody. Absolutely everybody. We have programmes taking place out in community centres across Laois and Offaly, and then we're going right up to level 6 apprenticeship and tertiary projects as well. So, it really is for everybody. Anyone that wants to get in touch with us, we have 2 information hubs now. One on High Street here in Tullamore. It was the old Ulster Bank, so that's our information hub here in Tullamore. And then we have the one in Leicester Square as well in Portlaoise. Our fabulous guidance service is there to assist anybody who wants to come in for further information, impartial information on all of the services and supports that are available to them. And absolutely, there are no barriers. Come in to us, talk to us, and we can develop a learning path for you.
Absolutely. Well, you've pointed out there too, and you've given us numbers at the start there or earlier on for adult literary services too, and people can just, as you say, engage in those public centres and start your process there. But for now, Eileen and Therese, thank you so much for it this morning as well, and keep up that fantastic work. And when Eileen used the word barrier there, and I just mentioned earlier, like how sometimes engaging with a new group or a new activity or a new club, there can be lots of barriers. A lot of them, I think, are self-imposed. People are nervous, they're unwilling to maybe reach out or to maybe talk themselves out of doing it. But actually, there is a service out there now that can help you make that connection as well. And it's called social prescribing. And we're going to learn all about it after this quick break.
Saturday View, with thanks to Lumcloon Energy, pioneering innovation, powering progress. LumcloonEnergy.com.
So, continuing on that theme that we built on earlier in the show there around inclusivity and inclusion, and sometimes becoming a member of a new club, and particularly, let's say if you had lost a loved one, or if there's been a change in your health circumstances, or whatever it might be, that you find yourself isolated. And I think we all realise that in a post-COVID world, I think there's a lot of people who have lost the ability maybe to connect with people, they've lost actual people, and they find themselves maybe more isolated and alone than ever. You could be new in an area and you don't know how to reach out and make contact with a new group. And I know I can speak personally. Sometimes it comes to going somewhere new, you make up a million excuses not to go, and we could say in old-fashioned terms, we bottled it in the end. So something that can maybe make those links and curate those links and get your introduction would be of huge importance to our community. And that's where social prescribing comes in, I believe. I'm delighted to be joined by Louise Larkin. Louise is Social Inclusion Team Leader at Offaly Local Development Company. Good morning, Louise.
Good morning, how are you?
Louise, am I touching on what social prescribing is?
Yeah, you've kind of hit it on the head there. It's people who are experiencing isolation or loneliness, who maybe just don't have the ability, the capacity, the drive in them to link out and reach into the communities where they are now living for whatever reason, be that bereavement, new to the area, change in circumstance. There's lots of different elements to it. Where
did this discipline or movement of social prescribing first come from and when?
So projects were kind of piloted up in Mayo direction in 2012, 2013. And then there's been developments ever since. In 2019, we launched officially Offaly Well Connected, which it had been around a little bit longer, but it's a HSE funded project in Offaly. And there's projects popping up everywhere now, I suppose, from 2012, 2013, when there was one, to now. If you go on to the All Ireland Social Prescribing Network, you'll see projects listed in all 32 counties. There's over 40 projects. Some are in local development companies, some are in family resource centres, some are in sláinte care areas. And it's just continuously growing, which is great to see because there's always a need for it.
You're giving us hints there that it sounds like there's linkages with GPs, with the health service, with all those various social services too, that people who are at the front line of seeing and being able to address a need for somebody.
Yeah, we definitely get a lot of referrals from clinical specialists, from GPs, public health nurses, occupational therapists. We also take self-referrals as well though, so it's important to be able to meet both. What I suppose we can't go without saying is that social prescribing is not a replacement for adequate clinical services. It's not social work. It's not a counselling service. Our social prescribers are link workers that connect individuals to suitable community outlets for them.
And I'm sure when a social prescriber comes on or joins your ranks too, and they go looking around the community, even if we check out social media, check out some of those adverts in local papers, the clicks of the community diary here on radio, you probably discover there is an awful lot of stuff happening and a lot of which we don't know about.
And that's one of the biggest roles for our social prescribers, is finding those connections. It's all well and good meeting a client and them telling you that they like chess. Well, where do they go then? Aoife and Michelle have to spend a lot of time trawling through Facebook, through community digest, whatever it is, to see what's going on, because contacts change as well, schedules change. And the last thing you want to do is to give the wrong information, get someone's hopes up and then realise, whoops, sorry, it's not there.
Somebody turns up to an empty community centre or an empty room in a library and then they think, right, this isn't for me as well. But overcoming that, be it shyness, the reluctance, everything that goes on in the human brain of I won't be accepted here, no, maybe I'm not too different, like we're adept at talking to each other out of situations. How does a social prescriber work in that area to make that, I suppose, passage easy for people?
Yeah, the passage can be quite slow. And initially it starts off with a one-to-one meeting with either Michelle or Aoife. So Michelle is based in Tullamore, Aoife works in the Burr area. And it's really delving into what the barriers are, what has happened, without going to the extent of counselling, but what's the barrier and what can we do? And it might take quite a while. There might be a need for a buddy system that Michelle or Aoife goes along to the programme or to the event to kind of slowly break down those barriers. Some people come in, all they need is a signpost and they're gone and we never see them again, and that's the best compliment. They don't need a service. Others, it takes time, and it is a lot of that internal conflict, that dialogue that I don't fit in, this isn't for me, and that can be very hard for anybody to get over, you or I or anybody.
Take us through some of the initiatives that have been pioneered in the area over the last year or two, in terms of looking and developing these things, because you take it above just making those connections. You're training people in the community then to be able to take ownership and leadership in this field.
Yeah, so even though I said that the link worker tries to link back into things that are happening in the community, Offaly is rural. There isn't always something happening to go to. So at times we have to be innovative and we have to create opportunities. We have multiple things going, but I suppose the most recent innovative attempt at making some community connections is our social walk leader training. That's a SICAP programme. So SICAP is Social Inclusion and Community Activation Programme. It's Government of Ireland and EU funded, and we have a large team here, well, across the county working in it. But the social walk leader training, we piloted it first in early this year, February, March, in West Offaly, well, in Kinnity, up the mountains. And it was a group of people who knew the importance of community, who knew the importance of a social walk, and who knew that they had a role to play in that. We have been social walking, for want of a better term, since COVID. It was all we could do for a while. People felt safe outside. It then became a regular thing. We had weekly walks. We now have monthly walks across the county. And social walk leader training just adds another level to that. They're volunteer walk leaders. They complete a 6-week training programme with us that looks at the importance of nature and nature connectedness, how to manage group dynamics, the health and safety around leading a walk. So we engage with the sports partnership for that, and Frank Fahey delivers a brilliant day on risk assessing the walks and what you need to plan for, the just in case kind of element of it. And on completion of that then, we have over 6 walks ongoing all the time across the county. We're in our 2nd programme of social walk leader training, and the leaders now, the participants, have developed their own little peer network as well, where they have a buddy system. They're a buddy for us as well. If we ever have a walk in an area where we might be short of leaders, we can always call on them. They know the importance. They know the importance more so of the cup of tea after, and potentially a purple snack. Always goes down well and really helps with well-being. And it's just great to have them, and what they get from it as well is massive.
And it's given people a sense of purpose too. And this, I assume, it's not discriminatory against age, gender. It's really open to everybody, and people probably automatically by default go, this is for the older person who's retired, who doesn't have the work connections, and you're going to tell me that's probably not the case.
It's for everybody. The social walk leader training, we have had more so older people on it, but we have had some young people come through who have maybe come from other programmes, maybe come through social prescribing, come through our Men Power programme, who now are ready to take on a role and see again the importance of being there for somebody else. Yes, older people play an invaluable role in this, and I suppose the walks are tailored to suit everyone. It's the importance of slowing down, being able to lift your eyes up and see what's around you. That makes you feel good. Having that chat, having that cuppa. And there's a pace for everybody on our social walks. We make sure of that.
Yeah, and the purple snack, as you say, goes a long way towards meeting people's needs. And I got a kind of a snippet of that. I'll talk about that in a few minutes myself during the week. And again, it's another example of stuff that's happening in the locality that most people don't know of. And it's kind of powerful. It's simple in its essence, but powerful at its core as well. So for the likes of social prescribers then, people are probably going to hear more about them. What areas are you focused on now in terms of maybe growing the profile and making sure that more people can be connected with all these various organisations and activities?
Well, as I said, we have a social prescriber working in Tullamore and in Birr. We'd love to expand. Unfortunately, I don't like to mention the funding word, but it does depend on funding. We also struggle a lot with the complexity of need. So what we need to support our enhancement and our expansion of the service is really the communities to link with us. If people are running a group, if people know of a club and just want to put it out there, maybe they're ready for new members, they are such an asset to us and to their communities. So today's call, I suppose, is to give us a call and tell us what you have in your area that we can then store in our little brains and be ready to pass on to the next person that needs it.
And I'd imagine it's not a major process to, for a prescriber to go out, meet your grouping. There's not a huge amount of due diligence. It's just trying to see, are they regularly meeting, who's behind it, that type of thing, that you can make those links, because clearly the benefits for those little clubs or little organisations are massive then in terms of increasing membership and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Like, as I said, we're very rural, so numbers in some clubs are small. So it's a benefit to many people, to many areas, to have more interest in clubs, to know more about clubs, and to be able to then slowly populate them with people who have come through our social prescribing service. It's really important that the person fits the service, fits the club. So our social prescribers do like to meet with the clubs as well and make sure that accessibility wise it's good, that there is enough activity to suit the person that they have in mind, that kind of stuff.
Well, I discovered one during the week, and it was just by chance I found a flyer when I was visiting Muckle Community Centre one day, and there's a men's coffee morning every Thursday morning. It's been going for about 2 years now. I popped out on Thursday morning and I've recorded a lovely piece with them that's going to go out on air this day next week, and I'm really looking forward to bringing it. But again, men of different ages, different backgrounds coming together. Brown bread scones, just having a lovely chat about life in general. I did it all my own way. I'm going to play a little bit. It'll give you a snippet as to the kind of, I suppose, the ambience and lots of things. And some of the members mightn't be available on a Thursday because of medical appointments. And I mentioned how, yeah, sure, we're all like that. And here, have a quick listen to this. Anybody else want to come in there? One man jumping up and down here.
I just wondering, what would your medical appointments be?
We can't talk about that on here. We'll talk about that with a coffee after this, all right? I'll show you. So you can see I wasn't wrapped in cotton wool out there, but again, it was just wonderful to get an experience of that. And that's happening every Thursday in Mucklagh, and it's open to any man that wants to pop in and just have a bit of chat and make new friends as well. And like that, I was probably a bit jittery going in. It was a fantastic morning, and I'm looking forward. I'll bring you that full piece next week. It was great crack, some great characters in it as well. But Louise, that's the type of thing that's happening in our communities. I spotted on Instagram this morning on the Offaly Local Development Company page, there's a drop-in cafe in the cabin in Eden Derry where people can just drop in and have a cup of tea and coffee.
Yeah, we have 3 drop-in cafes now running routinely, one in Tullamore, one in Eden Derry and one in Birr. And it's just that drop-in, have a cuppa. You never know who you might meet or what opportunity might fall in your lap by just taking that step and getting out there. There's no pressure, it's a chat, and you can come and go as freely as you like. Sometimes signing up to something can in itself be a barrier. So this is, if the want takes you, come along and have a cuppa with us, and we're happy.
It's often that fundamental, that great starting point. And as I say, I myself found that last week. It was so natural in the way it was done, and the team in Mucklagh like that too. And they'll speak next week about this to me, that it didn't just happen. It takes effort, it takes time, getting those, what we'd call in business terms, early adapters in, those few people who will sort of come every week, and then others follow as well. So it's never a simple task.
Email address info@offalyldc.ie is the best way to connect with us.
Well, fantastic. It is. It sounds like a service already, and I think social prescribing is something that people become more and more aware of and it's such a critical intervention, and it's almost bizarre. In the last even 3 weeks, the amount of people in just casual conversations who have mentioned to me that they've now discovered that we haven't kind of recovered, say, from a social community impact from COVID at all. In a lot of ways, loads of people are isolated. Some people are very busy in work, they're busy at home, they're still very isolated, and we just have to, little recalibration is needed. So knowing that services like through the likes of yourselves and what we've heard there from the LOETB are going a huge way towards changing that as well. But for now, Louise Larkin, thank you so much for that, and looking forward to talking to you again soon. And it all fits with what 3 weeks ago we spoke about, a friendship recession amongst men, and that's just one small section of society. And we had 3 men on speaking about how, yes, they're seeing that happening. They're noticing friends who've disappeared. They're noticing themselves not getting out as much as we need. And then I'll take you to that group in Mucklagh that meets every Thursday, and we'll hear more from them next week. So stuff is happening. So let me know what you're doing and what's happening in your community out there, and we'll get the word out and increase and get back to having a good old bit of crack wherever we can as well. Time for me to say goodbye. Lorraine McCormick is coming up next with Feel Good Saturday. Big thanks to Nelly for helping put the show together as always. I'll be back on here with you next Tuesday evening for Taking Care of Business from 7. Until then, I'll chat to you then, or maybe talk to you next Saturday morning.
Saturday View, with thanks to Lumcloon Energy, pioneering innovation, powering progress. LumcloonEnergy.com.
Midlands 103.